with millennials and would come up with a better solution for Gen Z, but instead, these delusional boomers simply doubled down on their outdated trash advice that had already failed with millennials. Oh, the problem is you can't be studying a useless degree like business or gender studies. You need to be studying something serious, like the STEM fields. They're practically begging for people right now. Yes, but the problem is they're only begging for people right now because not everyone has a STEM degree. When you push everyone to get a STEM degree, well, guess what happens? Now, the tech job market is oversaturated to hell, and even guys with 10 to 15 years developer experience are struggling to find work. Just like with college degrees, the tech job market has now become oversaturated to hell. So now that both useless degrees like gender studies
Yep. So keep looking. It's a market. Something is in demand.
and serious degrees like computer science have been oversaturated to hell, you would think these delusional boomers giving you crucial advice about your future would have learned their lesson by now and came up with a better solution. I mean, maybe the third time's the charm, right? Wrong. The newest solution I'm seeing from them now is just get into the trades. Again, this might work for you individually and at this particular moment because there's not that much competition for the trades right now. But if they push everyone to get into the trades, the same exact thing that happened with college degrees and the tech job market will also happen to the trades. The competition will get oversaturated to hell, and it will be impossible to find a job there too. Do you see the pattern by now?
Great. So get in early, get the experience, and if something happens, see if you can start your own business. One thing about the trades is that people will always need them. Fixing something is not going to go away, and especially on the individual level.
All the advice you've been given by your delusional boomer and Gen X parents are individual solutions and not a solution on a macro level. It's easier to say,
this person did the same thing just earlier with the volunteer thing. He already came up to the conclusion that there is no advice that can be given such that it will be the advice needed by everyone. Does he have different expectations for himself versus others? Rules for thee and not for me much?
just get a better job than to actually address the real underlying problems. But we have to do it. Otherwise, we're just going to be stuck in this perpetual cycle of rinsing and repeating, pushing the oversaturation from one job market to the next. I remember when I was around 8 years old and my mom told me to clean my room, and instead of actually cleaning up the mess, I just shoved the mess into the closet and hid it. But this is literally how absurd and ridiculous your parents are to you when they tell you to just get a better job. They don't actually solve any problems in the long run, they just push the problems from one job market to the next. And unlike the messy room of an 8-year-old child, this delusional advice has real-world negative consequences for your career and your future. Okay, so where am I going with all this? And what is the ultimate macro societal-wide solution? I've thought about this a lot, and I've come to the conclusion that the only way to solve this problem from a macro level is a universal basic income. I know it's controversial.
The macro solution is to live off others. The solution is to cause more inflation? Okay, Zir. Where does this magical universal basic income come from? If the money comes from the government, that means it comes from taxpayers. That's less money for everyone working, where everyone is getting this equal amount of UBI somehow. Maybe it comes from the tax on businesses. Well, so much for starting your own business with those taxes. Also, with tax on business, what are the business going to do? Well, what are they doing with the tariffs? Cost of doing business goes up, and cost of goods and services goes up. If there is more money, like the extra money get during the pandemic, there will be more inflation. Remember the 40th law, there is no free lunch. So the next question always is, how much does it cost?
And is not a perfect solution. I'm not saying it is. But what I am saying is I don't see any other solution that actually solves the problem on a macro level. David Graeber, the author of the...
I say there is no problem to solve for. They always have to find where the work is, that is part of the free market. Everything has pros and cons. If the free market is the problem, there are places that can be studied, like different countries, to see what a non-free market does and the outcomes of that.
book we discussed earlier, actually agrees with this, which is why he argues in his book that a universal basic income along with heavy unionization is the only way forward. This is the only way we can actually provide an actual solution for everyone, rather than just perpetuating this endless cycle of just get a better job and oversaturating one job market after another after another. Now,
being a burden on taxpayers is the only way to move forward. Did we do free checks in a pandemic? Does anyone remember when the money printer went brrr and we get inflation from that? What's going to happen when this only solution kicks in? Anyone remember when people didn't have to pay rent and was getting taxpayers' money and very few people saved or invested money? How about those PPP loans? Another free money program, but with conditions. Some people were spending that money on cars and other depreciating items. That solution is not a solution. You are exchanging one idea for another, and every idea has their own pros and cons. Just this one con of the UBI will cause more inflation and will not resolve whatever imaginary problem he thinks exists. Sometimes things are broken, other times we are broken.
Oh, I know I've probably spurred a bunch of anti-UBI critics to chirp in the comments section. If you're against UBI, I respect your opinion, but I'd like to ask you if you can think of a better solution. I'm not talking about an individual solution like just get into the trades. I'm talking about an actual society-wide solution that actually solves problems.
The solution is to realize there is no problem and get a higher paying position somewhere. No one can give a solution since there is no problem.
On a macro level, not just an individual level. If you can think of a better solution, I'm happy to hear it, but I've personally yet to hear one myself. So this was my best effort to provide you guys not just with problems, but also with solutions. Individually speaking, I'd look into volunteering, but to solve the problem on a more macro societal level, a universal basic income will be necessary, and we'll just have to figure out a way to get it implemented. And I believe that this will ultimately solve the...
Here's an idea to get implemented, which should be funded, right? We tax the ones not working, and we put them in a labor camp if they don't get a job at a company. Then we really know if there's a problem or not.
Problem of the intense nihilism and meaninglessness that a lot of young people feel today. There are, in fact, plenty of things in life that give you purpose and meaning, whether it's taking care of your family or just enjoying one of your hobbies. These things might not necessarily pay you, but they're absolutely important and no one can say they're not. And the only way we're going to start appreciating these things is by freeing ourselves from the shackles of modern day work and separating our own self-worth from whatever our job title is.
Now, lots of functioning adults can already do that. They can balance life and work. For the taking care of your family thing he keeps talking about, how many people take care of their family? And in this talk, he was referring to the adult kids around 20-ish, since he was referring to them as young Zoomers, taking care of their adult aging parents, which I'm going to assume the parents is in their 60s since they need to be taken care of. But how does that math work? The parents had to have their kids in their 40s. For most women, biology doesn't work like that. Most women have kids at most in their mid-30s, so their 20-year-old kids are taking care of their 50-year-old parents? In most cases, do 50-year-olds need to be taken care of? I don't remember any of my family having issues in their 50s that need someone to be taking care of them. Even right now I have a few siblings turning 60 and they're functioning. Maybe I'm off on something, but who would give their adult kids an allowance for the adult kids just to live with them? Life is hard and can be frustrating. We all have to learn the rules of the playground as kids, and now as adults, there are new rules to the playground. This person identified an issue and came up with things he thinks are solutions. That's very great. We can all learn something from that. Whenever there is an issue, we have to recognize it and come up with some solutions. Hopefully we're just don't over-exaggerate things and want to coerce others into believing something that is more detrimental than the supposed problem.